The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland, in the nicest state in the Union, and I will include New York and California and Massachusetts on that. For my guest, Jerry Feitelberg, welcome back. We are pleased to have you at the Comfortably Zoned Network, and want to find out how you're doing. It's a pandemic. It sucks.
Does it ever? Thank you for having me on the program, Ralph. The pandemic has really changed everybody's lives. Certainly the players watching, playing the games in front of empty stadiums has to be unique, to say the least. Anyway, just to give you
that's eerie.
Give you a quick update on the A's game. They have now completed 7 innings, and Houston has a commanding lead. While we were talking before the program started, Jose Altuve just hit a 2-run homer to put the Astros ahead 11-4 at the end of 7.
Wow.
So it doesn't look good for the green and gold.
And this is basically the elimination game.
You got it. Yeah.
And they're not making a lot of friends around the league by losing to the Astros. The Astros have got to be the most unpopular team in baseball since the Yankees had the dynasty, and it was fun to hate them. And now, for different reasons, it's more than fun to hate the Astros. And I didn't realize just how much of an effect the cheating had on them until they're without the garbage can lid, and their hitting is just falling apart. Wonder why the A's could not contain them, and how disappointing that must be. We're talking off the air, as you say. The A's starting pitching has been horrible throughout this.
Yep, it has been. The Astros, when you look at their lineup, they've got some real weapons in their lineup. They got 6 or 7 guys that are absolutely sensational, starting with George Springer, Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa.
They're all hitting 220. They're all hitting 220 this year.
Yeah. Right. Well, a lot of the problems that they had was with injuries. Springer was out, Altuve was out, Bregman was out, and they got healthy. And they're showing you how good a team that they are. And they don't even have their rookie of the year, Yordan Alvarez, was on the IL all season long. They are just loaded. And they showed you how this series is showing you how good a team they are. They really are a good team.
Well, they certainly have a new MVP, and that's Dusty Baker.
Oh, for sure.
He's obviously held them together through a lot of adversity, and that was a good hire. And I'm wondering, as I skip around in my head, if the guy that he replaced, the catcher, Hinch.
Oh, AJ Hinch, yeah.
I'm wondering if he wouldn't be a good choice as manager for the Mets. He's got some experience. He obviously, it was a scandal. People make mistakes, and this guy's a Stanford graduate. He was the best manager in baseball in a lot of people's eyes for the last couple of years. And the Mets are rebuilding, as you know. They have a new owner. Sandy Alderson is going east again. And I was just thinking Hinch would be good for them. But that's off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know how radioactive Hinch is right now. I don't think he had a big role in the cheating scandal. I think the players were doing it themselves, but it's hard to know. I don't know if Jeff Luhnow was involved. He was the GM, but they had to pay the price. So
Beltran was among those who paid the price too.
So yeah, Beltran was going to be the manager of the Mets, and
right.
he never managed the day.
And he never managed. He was hired and all set out with a brand new uniform and everything, and never got to sit on the bench. So,
those things happen, and Alex Cora quit. He was involved when he was a coach with the Astros, and he managed the Red Sox in 2018, and he's no longer managing the Red Sox. There's some speculation that they might hire him back. Who knows?
Right, and you got to say, letting the punishment fit the crime. Should he, like Hinch, be given another chance?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
it'd be nice. Who knows? So
okay, hey Jerry, as you know, I'm putting together a little book of baseball stories that have been in my head for a long time. Things that have happened to me in life regarding baseball. As you know, I was the Topps baseball card representative on the West Coast, and that was in the 80s and 90s, and I have many stories about that, and stories about podcasts that I've done, and my knowledge of baseball that I've accumulated through doing podcasts on this very network. Jerry, I must say that you've been a mentor to me in teaching me a lot about what's going on with the A's. And you're a Boston native, Massachusetts native, and you were a big, if not the biggest Ted Williams fan in the world, one of the most knowledgeable men about Boston baseball in those days. Were you an actual fan of his? Did you, or were you, like I was with Willie, more of a worshiper than anything?
No, I was a fan. I wrote a piece several years ago. Jackie Robinson was my favorite player in baseball ever. Robinson spoke to me, his courage and what he did and what he fought for, and was the type of person that I liked. Williams was a great hitter. I enjoyed watching him come to hit, and we always cheered when he got a home run or drove in a run. That was part of it, and that was the extent of it. I didn't worship him at all.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the Korean War and Williams being recalled. If I'm not mistaken, it wasn't voluntarily that he went back into service.
No, he had served in World War II. He did not see combat in World War II. He was a flight instructor, I think, down in Pensacola during the Second World War. And then he went into he was a Marine pilot, and I think he was a Marine pilot or a Navy pilot, one of those. And he must have been in and he was called up, I think, in 1952 and he flew in Korea. His wingman in Korea was a future astronaut and future senator, from Ohio. John Glenn was
John Glenn,
yeah. And we almost lost Williams in Korea. As you know, his plane was hit from ground fire, and Glenn was his wingman, and Glenn got him back safely to base, and Williams survived. So
came in with the flaming airplane, landed on its belly, if I'm not mistaken, and miraculously he lived. But talking about his career, what did that cost him in overall production? Not that it wasn't, what he did wasn't great. He had 500 plus home runs, 340 something lifetime batting average. He could have been the greatest hitter, certainly the greatest hitter in our lifetime, and could be all time.
Oh, absolutely. He had 521 home runs, and he missed parts of 5 seasons. And if he hits 40 home runs in those 5 seasons, he's at 720 home runs, which would have exceeded Babe Ruth. And so he was a 344 lifetime hitter. He was the real deal. He was unbelievable as a hitter. And I believe he's the greatest hitter that ever lived as a baseball player. Unbelievable. Tremendous records. But he didn't play those years, so he still had outstanding numbers. Most people don't realize he never had 3,000 hits because of the years that he missed. He certainly would have had it had he played those 5 years.
Oh, no question. And with power, too. Like Rose, not taking anything away from Pete Rose, just, as Mickey Mantle said, if he said something, I can't think of what it was, he said something about Rose, if I only had X number of home runs, I'd have worn a dress or something like that. Power was and is very, very respected, and to hit that well for average and on base percentage, he would not strike out, and he would not swing at anything out of the strike zone. He would work a pitcher, and sometimes to the detriment of the team. Do you have any stories about that?
No. He had the best eye in baseball. He was he was not 2020. He was 2015. He said he could see the stitches on the pitch coming in, and he knew if he got it, if he hit a home run, he said he could smell the ball leaping off the bat from the heat from the ball going out of the park. So he was quite a character. He did not have a great relationship with the press in Boston. There were several writers for it was the Boston American. Dave Egan, Colonel Dave Egan, who used to excoriate him and give him all kinds of stuff, and he would criticize him unfairly. The press in Boston in those days, back in those days, there was no television, there was radio only. Television came in later, in the late 40s. Williams had already played been in the big leagues for 8 or 9 years. And Egan would write columns and would drive Williams up the wall. So he got to the point where he didn't even want to talk to the press at all. Other guys like John Gillooly, Harold Casey, Bill Cunningham, all these Boston sports writers were merciless on Williams. He felt that they were prying into his personal life, and they should only be concerned with his life on the baseball field. But
how did that get started? Was it because Williams held out very early?
Could be. The guys were not making anywhere near the money, even in just figuring out what the pay rate would have been in 1939, 1945, 1946. Well, I think the most Williams ever made in a season was $125,000 a year. Certainly, he would have been worth. He and DiMaggio and Mays would have been the $30 million a year guys had those salaries been in effect in those days.
It doesn't seem like much, but let's compare it to what the average sports writer was making in those days. Would you say $7,000 might have been?
Yes. In those days, in the 40s and 50s, they're probably making between $7,000 and $15,000 a year. If that.
Nowhere near 15 in those days.
Yeah, they just weren't making big bucks.
So it didn't seem like the players were making big bucks compared to what they make now, but they were very well paid. They had to work, not so that they couldn't afford not to work in the off season, but they were pretty well compensated given everything. Now, how much the unions changed all of that, and Robin Roberts and Kiner and those guys in the early unions can't underestimate that. And then certainly Miller came later with free agency and changed baseball forever. Now, whether it was for the good or the bad, that remains to be seen. We're talking about Williams, though, and I wanted to ask you if you remember an article by John Updike about Williams' last day as a major leaguer when he hit that home run against the Yankees in his final at bat. Did not tip his hat to the fans.
Nope. And I think it was titled "The Kid Bids Boston Adieu." And he I think this pitcher was Jack Fisher, and he hit his last at bat. He hit his 521st home run, and he stopped tipping his cap a long time ago. He did not come back. I don't think there were more than 10,000 people in the ballpark for his last at bat. Anyway, it was a cold day, and he just went into the dugout, just kept his head down, ran into the dugout, and that was it. So,
I mentioned Updike. Updike was an absolutely terrific novelist. When I grew up in the late 50s and early 60s, reading him was such an introduction to life. His characters were terrific. Rabbit Run and Rabbit Redo, just great works. And I wonder today what kids are reading to develop their minds and to develop a philosophy of life. It's a really, not to segue into it, but we are in a world of strangeness, to put it bluntly. And how, to get into Trump for a second, how he can be allowed out on the campaign trail, contagious as he is beyond belief.
Well, I agree with you. The Presidential Debate Commission made a change, and they said that because of the possibility that he may still be infectious, that instead of having the debate in Miami, and by the way, the mayor of Miami asked that he not come to Miami, they were going to have it done virtually. That he would be in the studio in the White House, and Biden would be in a studio somewhere else, and they could do it. It was done in 1960, the last debate between Kennedy and Nixon. Kennedy was in a studio in New York. Nixon was a studio in California, and the moderator was in a studio in Chicago. And this is in 1960, and the debate came off. Trump doesn't want to do that because he wants to scream and yell and spit and have all this. If there's any virus in it, it will go in the air in the stadium, in the auditorium. He's just a reckless person. He was reckless in not wearing a mask. He infected, I don't know how many people were infected at that garden party that he had for the Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. But I think 30 people are so far have been affected from that group. And they're spreading it all over the country because a lot of the people went home and they were probably exposed to it, and they didn't have contact tracing. It's just a nightmare from that event. Just a nightmare. Spreader event. Totally.
Now, if we're talking about the same event, the event where they introduced the Supreme Court nominee, he could be patient zero. He could have been the one that started all of it in terms of infecting that crowd. And there have already been 20 people in the White House affected. Just flashed on something that I heard today for the first time. I've discussed with Tally Amendment 25 many times. For the first time, I've heard it from a politician. Pelosi said today they're forming a committee to determine, a bipartisan independent committee to determine whether or not the man is sane. The man is either physically or mentally capable or capable of running the country. And she used the very words, Amendment 25. And so we may have some changes around that. It would be
I don't think that the Republican cabinet or the Republicans are going to go for that. But it brings up the point that should Trump lose the election, number one, he's going to do everything in his power to decertify it, saying that it was rigged, that the ballots were all forged. There were all kinds of problems with the ballots. But he's going to lose, and hopefully it's going to be a blue wave, the likes of which no one has ever seen. That's the type of terminology that Trump will use. But I hope it's a huge blue wave. But the thing is, we'll have him for 2.5 months before the inauguration, and he can do tremendous damage in that 2.5 months. And it would be nice to certify him if they lose the election, have him certified as unfit, and have Pence take over for the 2.5 months. I don't know if that's going to happen.
It would be a dream. In the meantime, it's good drama in the sense that all of the most hated characters in this fiasco, people like Kaylee and the other one, the younger one, the blonde. You got the governor of New Jersey catching this. You got Stephen Miller, who is, I would say, as close to having Hitler-like characteristics, the way he thinks, than any of them in there. I'm sure Trump takes Hitler lessons from Stephen Miller on Wednesdays. But he's got it, and eventually these people will spread it to enough people that when deaths in their inner circle start happening, sons, daughters, wives, mothers, that will make the difference, and that will drive Amendment 25 to come to being, because he is accepting no responsibility. He said the other day, with all respect to God, gotta leave him out of this. This is, but what he said was, it's a miracle of God that I got this. He's talking like a deranged idiot.
Oh, absolutely. He got it because he was someone had it, and he was exposed to Hope Hicks or someone else. He was blaming the military. The other day, he was blaming the Gold Star families. They had an event in the.
They wanted to hug him and kiss him, and they couldn't keep away from him. Unbelievable. And scary, because, like you say, he's got his hand on the buttons.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if at this point there's somebody in there watching him, somebody from the CIA. I can't imagine that all these people with brains and power can let it get to this point where we're totally at his mercy.
Well, you know that he's been enabled by the Republicans in the Senate, by Mitch McConnell, and all the 53 or 54 Republican senators. They had an opportunity to remove him from office when he was impeached. They only had one Republican senator, Mitt Romney, that found him guilty. So,
hey, how about the Democrats who approved Barr in the House of Representatives? Now, there are 2 or 3 of those, and I think without Barr, who's been a lapdog for him, he felt empowered by that, and still does. So I wonder if everybody blames the Republicans for being enablers, just as much so the Democrats, if you ask me.
Well, he was approved on the Senate confirmations hearings, and we don't know if he
not the House. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know if he lied or whatever at the time when he was asked the questions, and he's been caught in lies ever since he's been in office as the Attorney General.
It was so clear to get the job. He had written a paper about why that the Mueller report was bogus. And so they knew what they were getting. It was well documented. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Trump notwithstanding, there's very little difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. And I think if Biden gets elected, we are still set back maybe 8 years, because Biden does not takes money from pharmacists. He's a corporate whore. Not pharmacist. You're a pharmacist, but I mean pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, they all do, and all the big givers play both sides because they're never sure who's going to get in. They want to have
right.
And money buys you access, and we were talking this when I was active in the pharmacy affairs and active in politics. The late Jesse Unruh, the Speaker of the House of California, when you could have a speaker for years and years, Unruh said money is the mother's milk of politics, and so it's always been and it always will be. The more money that you have coming in, it buys you access. Now, if I give a contribution of $100,000 to a candidate, and if you can afford $100, that's nice. They appreciate that. But if I call up on the phone, I'm going to get through. if you call up, oh, the assemblyman or the congressman is away from their desk, thank you for your phone call. That's it.
Yeah,
But
I'd have to call. I'd have to recall and reverse the charges. It wouldn't be any $100. Okay. Yeah, but they'll talk to you with the big bucks, and it's always been that way. And so the basic difference between Democrats and Republicans is good guy, bad guy, and they play us every 4 years. One is the good guy, the other is the bad guy. But the majority of the bad guys stay in office for a long time.
Yeah, but you said there are the differences are small. There are huge differences. Here you have a guy in office. He has a case. They have a case in the Supreme Court that if the Supreme Court rules against it, will remove health care for 20 million people. They will cancel out the Affordable Care Act. It will remove all pre-existing conditions that the insurance companies would love to get rid of, because people now who have COVID-19, they could say that's a pre-existing condition. You don't get treated.
Absolutely.
So you have that. The Democrats want to expand health care. They want to expand the Medicaid program. They want more people getting health care. And they want to expand the educational opportunities. They want to make sure that we have steps to protect the environment. Trump's EPA has relaxed the rules on dumping chemicals into the rivers, polluting the rivers and polluting the ground. They have relaxed the rules on contaminants, toxins going into the air.
But that's Trump, and I don't think that would have been done with the vigor by the Republicans alone.
No, people forget that the EPA was created while Richard Nixon was the president, and the EPA has done great stuff. And I have a feeling that a lot of the manufacturers, and especially coal and coal miners and burning coal, that dumps a lot of pollutants into the air, burning the fossil fuels, all the carbon dioxide going into the air, all the stuff that the cars emit have to go somewhere. And a lot of the CO2 is absorbed by the oceans, but the oceans can't absorb all of it. And so we have all this affecting the climate. It's getting hotter. We're having more severe storms. Look at the situation in California, 4 million acres on fire. Australia was on fire. The firestorms in Oregon and Washington this year, it's been unbelievable. The hot summers that we're having inland in California, and even on the coast. We have we just out here in California, we don't rake our forests as well as we should. That's what Trump says. And Trump doesn't know that most of the forest in California is on federal land, and it's the responsibility of the Department of Forestry, the federal Department of Forestry, not California. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. He just gets on these toots. He gets these in his brain, and that's all I can say. He never changes his mind. He never admits he's wrong. He never apologizes for anything. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody. Yeah, we're human beings, but I've never heard of anybody that is not willing to, in any way, shape, or form, take responsibility for a bad decision or a decision that was just simply beyond his control. He will not cop to anything. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. You know, I remember I was in the Army, and we were doing something, and I opened up the box, and it was a container of ether, and I opened it up, and there was an odor. The sergeant comes in and said, "Who did it?" And I know if I didn't say anything, the unit would have been punished. So I said, "I did it." was there a problem? The guy said, no, put the cap back on. Big deal. You tell the truth. What the hell?
Right.
It doesn't hurt to tell the truth.
And what can they do? It's the cover-up that gets people into trouble more times than the actual crime. Good example of that, we talked about Pete Rose a little bit briefly before. I think if he would have copped to everything and said, I had a gambling problem, as people have problems, he didn't, wasn't a treasonist or anything. He would have been much better off, but ego and pride keep us as a society, people, from just being human and, copping to what you did.
So, it's the Rose situation. He has the most hits of any baseball player that ever lived. He broke Ty Cobb's record. He should be in the Hall of Fame for what he did as a baseball player, but he gambled as a manager. And the first rule in baseball is no gambling allowed. And when you're betting on your team or betting against your team, it's not wise. And had he fessed up and said, I had a problem, I'm taking therapy for it, I apologize for everything I did, he probably would have been it may not have changed things, but I think he would have more sympathy from people had he done it.
His big excuse was that he never bet against the Reds. He bet he bet for them. But you know what? Bookies got tipped off because when he wasn't betting at all, that was like betting against the Reds. Yeah. So
just an update on the game. We're in the top of the ninth. Houston is leading 11-4. The A's are down to their last out. 2 outs in the top of the ninth. So we'll keep on talking, and Ryan Presley is in facing Marcus Semien right now.
Okay,
so just about over.
That's sad, and sad for you because you've become an A's fan through doing it. You can't cover a team without having something in your mind to make it fun, to make it fan-like. Certainly a terrible way of expressing that, but you know what I'm talking about. You become attached to the team that you're covering. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone in the press box that covers the A's roots for the A's. You can't show emotion in the press box, but we clap silently when they're going good, and
right.
we hope that I especially like Bob Melvin. He's been a skipper for such a long time, and we'd like to see him. He's won the Manager of the Year award a couple times with the A's, but I'd like to see him win a world championship with the club. They've done wonders with such a limited payroll, and they blend all these players together, but they just can't seem to get over the hump. They don't have the multi-million-dollar pitchers like the Garrett Coles or the Justin Verlanders. And, they get guys and they get service out of them, but their flaws show up.
Dollar for dollar, they get more for their bang than any other team in baseball over the last 20 years. Let's put it this way. They've always had a payroll problem. They've always had not enough money to work with. And Billy Beane has done a tremendous job. You could only go so far without funding.
Yep, they just scored a run, and Semien singled to drive in Robbie Grossman with the A's fifth run, so it's now 11-5.
Would that not be a miracle? Hey, Jerry,
one
Ted Williams impression on you before we go?
Well, I think one of the things I remember is when he came back from active duty in Korea, they were playing a doubleheader. I think it was against the Tigers, and it was, I think, around Memorial Day weekend. And I was there in the stadium. You know what he did coming back from Korea? He went 8 for 9 in the doubleheader.
Whoa.
8 for 9. What a memorable game to be at.
And you were there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
It was.
Hey, Jerry. Keep well till next time. It's always fun talking to you. Always informative, and going through this little pandemic thing that we go through, it's always nice for me to have someone whose feet are firmly on the ground.
Yeah, well, it's nice that you're staying well. We're all trying to stay well to avoid this thing. I think that I read that of the 210,000 people that died, 150,000 of those were people over 65 years of age. So we are in the most susceptible group, and we're not getting any younger.
No, last I looked.
And I believe a month from today you're going to be a year older.
Yes, coming up. It's this is the 8th boy. How did you remember that? November 8th.
You know that the next day I'm a year older too. My birthday's one day after yours.
That's how you did it. And we'll have to, I hope by then we can celebrate at Nations.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Open up. That'd be great. Stay well, my friend.
You got it.
All right.
We can get takeout, that's for sure.
Yes, absolutely. But then again, where are you going to take it?
Good question.
All right.
They might have tables set up on the sidewalk. Who knows?
Who knows? If there is a sidewalk by then, will they allow us to have a sidewalk? Be well, my friend. Right. Vote blue and stay healthy.
You got it. And if Biden wins, I'm buying for you. How's that?
And if Biden doesn't win, I'll buy the hemlock.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. Fair and square.
Okay.
Be well.
All right. I know.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zone Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tycho, the weak link of it all. Adios.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.